My mum, I think, is a really remarkable person. She wouldn't think so, and I think that's what makes her feel remarkable. Sharp as a tack, she's quick-witted, she's empathetic, she's kind, she's very tolerant with all of us. She's just got family in her heart and soul. Some of the things were immediate and easy. In fact, all of them were easy because I think that they have to come from the heart. Having someone who's so important in your life, putting that into your mind, it's meant that you can quieten the voices of doubt. You can approach relationships with boundaries. You can know that someone has got your back completely.
Hello and welcome back to These Three Things, the podcast that asks which person, place and treasured possession have made a profound impact upon your life and why. My next guest undoubtedly knows a thing or two about fashion. She sat as Executive Fashion and Beauty Director for Glamour magazine for over 12 years before joining the Outnet as Head of Content, an online fashion collection that is owned by the giant Yoox Net-a-Porter Group. She now sits as Head of Brand, Creative and Content for Harvey Nichols. When she's not dashing between busy meetings, she's found happily nestled at home in her Buckinghamshire house alongside her husband Ben and their two teenage daughters. She freely admits that she has loved every moment of her career so far in fashion and branding, but her dream job is to sit in Lorraine Kelly's chair as the anchor woman and agony aunt to Britain each morning. I can personally vouch, having known Claudia Mahoney for over 40 years, that she would do a great job. Welcome, Claude. It's lovely to see you. Thank you so much for being a guest on These Three Things. So before we get stuck in, can I ask, how easy was it for you to choose your person, place and thing?
I mean, some of the things were immediate and easy. In fact, all of them were easy because I think that they have to come from the heart. And on your advice, you have to sort of go for the thing that is, rather than the showpiece, you have to go for the thing that you've got sort of the anecdote and the story and the memories associated with. So actually relatively quick and simple.
Okay, great. That's good to know, because I've had a real mixed response from people saying, you think you know your person, and then you're actually like, who's set me on my path the most? So let's get stuck in with your person. Who have you chosen and why?
Well, this was my easiest one. I picked my mum, and well, you know Auntie Claire.
I do know Auntie Claire.
Obviously. And my mum, I think, is a really remarkable person. She wouldn't think so, and I think that's what makes her feel remarkable. I feel she's sharp as a tack. She's quick-witted. She's empathetic. She's kind. She's very tolerant with all of us. She's just got family in her heart and soul. And I can remember doing a little speech for her around her 60th birthday when she was, I think, having a bit of a wobble really about what have I done with my life and, what have I really achieved and blah, 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 blah. Because she hasn't had a sort of, I guess, like career, and probably in her heart of hearts, she knows she would have been capable of one. I think she's like the shining example of how to be sort of a CEO but of a family. So that's been her life's work. And, she's always there for us. I mean, she's our sharpest critic as well. And woe-betide, she was strict and things growing up. But she's also instilled in all of us a sense, and this is going to sound really arrogant because don't worry, I've got the self-loathing voice to chip away at this. But she's always instilled in us this sense that actually secretly we might be exceptional, that you might, as a person, be capable of really brilliant things. And that's a wonderful thing to have in your back pocket when you're doing anything, whether or not it's in your relationship, in your friendships, in your work, in your parenting style, anything that you're approaching, that sort of grounding sense that someone thinks that you're the cat's pajamas and, clever and beautiful and funny and, all of those things that you're probably not. You're probably completely mediocre or average at things. But having someone who's so sort of vivacious and important in your life, putting that into your mind, it's meant that you can sort of quieten the voices of doubt. You can approach relationships with boundaries. You can know that someone has got your back so sort of completely that you don't have to. I mean, I saying this, I mean, I definitely didn't approach relationships with boundaries when I was younger and things, but, I've definitely gone through, I've learned, but behind all of that was the knowledge that there would be someone there to, I guess, pick up the pieces as well.
No, that was so beautifully put, how you've just described all of that. And, you are one of 3, and I want to ask you about something about that in a moment. And now the mother of 2 daughters, and how you're probably taking so much of what your mother has instilled in you to put into them, again, in a different time, in a different generation, a different set of challenges presents itself. And so tell me, when you were growing up as the eldest of 3, how was your relationship with your mum in those sort of tentative years of teenagehood?
Oh, poor mum. I mean, I look back because I don't know, I think I'm probably a really weird mixture of being really confident and probably a bit bumptious, especially back then, because I hadn't had some of my edges rubbed off me. And also sort of like caught up in like feeling sort of anxious about myself and what I look like, how I sound, was that good enough? Have I done that to the best of my ability, etc. And I probably also, as the eldest, definitely sort of like pushed those boundaries. And then I felt sort of so unfair that when my sister came through, my brother, because he's such a goody two-shoes and so sort of like, boy, the golden child, he didn't sort of have the sort of, I guess the like coming up against rutting horns, whatever it's called, with her in the same way. And then my sister sailed through and I thought, hang on, I had to fight tooth and nail to be allowed to go to that party or get that sort of curfew or whatever it might be. And suddenly it's all absolutely fine for you to do all of that. But I think in the most part, looking back on it, you can see that she was just trying to guide me. And she was, probably younger than me because she had children younger than me, like letting out the rope at the best possible pace that she could. And I think the other thing that's really remarkable about my mum is that her parents had both died by the time she was 18. So she, has always obviously very keenly felt that loss, but she didn't have the blueprint that I have got throughout different stages and ages of life to go through to know how to approach things and do things. And so it was instinctive for her. And, how she managed all of us is, really, I mean, I'm not saying we were bad kids. And ultimately we were,
It's a lot.
And I think that I was really a bit strident probably in my teens.
But it served you in good stead. I mean, she must be, I know she is, incredibly proud of your career and what you've achieved. And when you mentioned then she's also your fiercest critic, how do you take that criticism? I mean...
Oh, it cuts to the quick from her, like more than anyone else. I could sort of, I mean, it would be unfair to sort of like, but she, if she felt that it was, that scene in Emma in the Jane Austen thing, he's like, badly done, Emma, badly done. And because she's the shaming of it. That's the thing that I feel it's that sort of like, or if mum thinks I've done something wrong, that would be,
Well, you hold her in such high regard that you're consciously, unconsciously seeking that approval and validation. Well, we all do, don't we, from our parents? But when you have someone that you admire in the way that you admire your mum, I suppose the criticism and the critiquing is so important because it shapes you again with your next round of decisions. But like you said, it's that first bruise of, oh no, I failed in some way. But so where is mum now, by the way? Where does she reside? Where is she in the world?
She's back in the diff. She's in Cardiff, which is still home and still feels like home. It's still my home number. My parents' number is still saved as home in my phone, and my actual landline here is not. It's saved under the name of the house. There is still. I still speak to her, every day. There is.
Do you have a regular time that you check in, the two of you?
No, and sometimes it annoys me because I can tell that when she's on the other line to my sister, I'm like, hang on, excuse me, this is, I'm in between meetings now. You should get off your headset and come round and like speak to me instead now.
it's so lovely that you've got that strength of connection, that daily strength of connection, and holding on to that, because, we don't know.
No, I agree. I mean, she's outlived both her parents by some stretch. And the other thing that I think that cemented my admiration of her is her relationship with my daughters. That I remember when I was pregnant, I think that I remember the night before I actually went into labour, I rang Mum and sort of said, "Oh, I've seen the doctor this morning and they think that actually they're going to try and induce me on Friday because the baby's kept looking like it's coming early and they want to kind of get ahead of that." And I was like a galleon in full sail. I was so enormous. I'd literally eaten all of the Domino's pizzas. And it was that hot summer and I was like, oh, I'm so over it. I couldn't get shoes on. I could only get flip-flops on, my fat feet. It was just awful. I was not one of those like, oh, I've just swallowed a beach ball pregnant women. And I remember ringing Mum and saying this. And she said, well, I've got to get to the airport for your brother. He's arriving back from sort of travelling or something on Friday. And I was like, are you joking? I'm going into labour and I'm going to have potentially for a baby and you're going to prioritise picking up boy, a grown adult from the airport. And poor Karen, you've been away probably for about 2 years at this point. And she sort of said, and I think she felt a bit sort of chastened that I was so upset and cross about it. Anyway, I think I was so upset and emotional because I was actually in the early stages of labour. And then when I did go into labour, I rang Mum and said, because I hemorrhaged that night, which probably you don't need on the podcast, but I went into the hot pot and I rang to say they're keeping me and the baby's coming today. And my dad, who has always worked, has never sort of like put work aside to be at the birth of his own children. Court adjourned, off in the car they got, rushed up to London to be there. So they were there, I think, minutes after Maisie was born. And that was, a really precious to, when it all comes to it, they're all, there. But I think I actually also conveniently did give birth in time for Mum to pick my brother up on Friday from the airport. The girls call her Ma. They call her Ma. And she was going to be called Granny, but Maisie, for whatever reason, just always called her Ma. And then sometimes Mummy Ma. And then she'll say things to me like, I wish Ma was my real mummy. And I say, well, tough, she's mine.
And how many grandchildren has she got?
9. My brother's got 4 and my sister's got 3.
And you've got the 2 girls. Oh, I have love. Well, I know you as Claire. So here's to Mummy Claire, Ma. Thank you. Tell me, can I go on to your place? Where have you chosen? Where is that place that you've chosen and why?
This one was harder because I really do love where I live now. The place I've picked, because I think it ultimately trumps it, is Newport in Pembrokeshire. And it's symbolic, I think, of my childhood, really, that and throughout your teens and even still, as an adult going down, taking your children back down there. I feel that I am Welsh, even though I've not lived in Wales since I was went to boarding school even, really, into 13, went away to university in St Andrews, and then I moved down to London. So I really haven't been living in Wales, but such a hold it has on you as a culture. I feel that it's this thing that if I try to sort of distill it, it's because I think that Wales is a matriarchal society and England is a more patriarchal society. And I think that there's loads of women like my mum in Wales who are sort of big characters and rule with love and, this sort of food, feeders. Oh my God, my mum's the worst feeder. She's like a sparrow, but she's always like, go on, have another bit more. Slice that, cracker, apple, yogurt.
The same. As soon as you walk through the door, how are you? What can I get you to eat? Isn't it? It's always the way in Wales. And drink. So for those who are listening who don't know Newport Pem, so it's about 2 hours west of Cardiff, and then you hit this glorious Pembrokeshire coastline where there's barely any reception and you've just got the brutal weather, but when it's on a good weekend, there's no one like it. But which part, if you could explain, which part do you love to sort of frequent first when you get down there? Is there a special sort of beach or pub?
I do love the pub. No, I mean, I think it's probably if I had the beach, but also the coastal walk that you can do around the pass, just going around Dinas Head and up to Cwmreglwys. It's just really beautiful. And like you say, it's almost like the cliffs the coastline is so extraordinary. It looks like there's sort of Gothic arches carved in them. And when you look down, the water looks turquoise. It's sort of in these little coves of these white sand beaches, and it's rugged and raw. And yet when the sun is shining there, you could be all around the world. I think I was saying to you a while ago that I was lucky enough when I was at university, because I was doing an art subject, had these ridiculously long summers. And my best friend and I thought, right, we'll go into the student travel place and we're going to see where we can get flights to. And we went off to around Southeast Asia for about, I think it must have been nearly 3 months. But when I got back, we got off the plane, had a bath because we absolutely stand, and then got on the train to get down to Newport Pembrokeshire. And I was adamant that I was going to have bank holiday weekend, come rain or shine, in Newport Pembrokeshire with my family, with my cousins, extended family, friends. And that, to me, is my happy place. So it's not just about the place itself, which I do think, and I'm not a sort of woo-woo person, but I do think there's something about the ley lines there that makes you just feel...
Really? So energetically, do you feel, what is it? So do you just feel really uplifted inside? Because I know...
Yeah, I just feel really happy there. Content, I think, rather than anything else. And it does also have to do with the people that are there, and whether or not that's memories of Ma Ange, my Auntie Angela, standing in the kitchen doing fry-up for sort of 57 people without turning a hair, or sort of going down to the tent, the marquee, that when they would have the dance at the end of the summer, and or having a lock-in in the Golden Lion, or doing one of the walks up to Nevern, or, any of those things. They're all just sort of, what do they call them? Like these core memories that you can call upon. And even now I do them with the children, and we'll take the kids down there, and they love it because there's no rules on them there. They can all wander about in a way that you can't when you're sort of living elsewhere. And chances are most people they're going to run into, they're going to be a blood relation or something along the lines, because there's such a lot of us down there. And it's just a really magical place, I think, that brings real sort of happiness.
So wholesome, because there's something so simple about when you take in really, really fresh air, and you don't have a Wi-Fi reception, and you've just got a stretch of beach. As I know Newport Pembrokeshire in the same way that you do, there is something really nourishing about it, that when you get there, nothing else exists. I just don't feel stress when I arrive. I listen to a song that me and my best friend have played. We met at 16, and we both realised that we had a love for the same little village in Pembrokeshire in the west coast of Wales, and we've been playing Scar Tissue by what they called, who's the band? Oh, I've just had a complete
Don't ask me anything, I'm so menopausal.
Sarcasm is to know it all. You know that band. It'll come back to me. Red Hot Chili Peppers. Whenever we enter into Newport Pembrokeshire, we blast it, and it's the thing that I do every time I arrive. I've got a mile to go, and I stick it on, and I know that I put the windows down and the air comes through, and I'm like, I just can't wait to get on Newport Beach, feel it wind in my hair, and get in the water, and then go for a pint at the Golden Lion, and I'm home.
It's so funny that you should say that, because my best friend is a girl called Millie, and we met at university, but she was at school with my cousin Ellie before, so she'd introduced us before we got to university. And in those things, when someone says to you, you're bound to get on, I'm sure you will, they've got loads in common, and you think, oh yeah. But anyway, she's from the get-go just been, my number one. And we worked out quite quickly that her grandparents lived in Newport Pembrokeshire. So even though she had been living all over the world, and her parents she lived as an expat sort of in Singapore and Hong Kong, etc., etc. Her home is Newport Pembrokeshire, and she still lives overseas herself in Singapore, but the home that she's bought in the UK is in Newport.
Let's move on to your treasured possessions. So this is the thing that's if everything, of all your possessions were taken from you, and you could hold on to just one thing, what would you choose and why?
Well, this was the hardest one, because I wanted to say diamonds or something like that, But I'm going to talk about the thing that is looming behind me, and it's a gift from my husband, and it's a huge I don't know, would you call it artwork? I'm not sure.
Framed poster made up of...
Yeah. So I worked for about 12 years at Glamour. Yeah. And all of the issues that I was on the masthead for, Ben went away and sourced the copies of them and got them all made up over the years as one big sort of like you say, sort of giant poster collage of them all there. So it's February 2006 till November 2017.
Wow. And how did you get them? Are they sort of postcard size?
Well, Glamour was always the handbag size magazine, yeah. But they're probably a bit smaller than they actually were. But he worked with a graphic designer. He found someone to help him, because he's not like a creative person. But he said to me, I've got you this special gift. And it was a couple of years after I'd left Glamour, but I had such amazing fond memories of being there. And he knew that it was sort of, the dream job. It was the most fun you could have with your clothes on. And he went away and got this made. And he kept saying to me, I've got this gift coming in for you. I've got this gift, but you're not allowed to try and guess what it is. And I was thinking, what can it be? What can it be? Anyway, it arrived. And I was so sort of taken aback. I think he still thinks to this day that I don't really like it. But I was just so, I don't know, like going out of your... Sometimes it's not easy to just give a gift, is it? And it's hard to give something that means something and to put so much work into. And it's not the value of it. I mean, it's got literally no value to anybody else.
And it will have value to your girls because the first 12 years of your career are right there on the wall. And look at what you were in charge of. And so tell me, did he give it to you as a gift for when you left Glamour before you went over to the Outnet? Was it a sort of...
I can't even remember. No, because I left Glamour and then I had about a couple of months before I started at the Outnet. I can't remember. I think it was sort of what gave me the idea. I think that I've never... I shouldn't really say this, should I? But I've never really felt the same sort of camaraderie that we all felt when we were at Glamour. And I don't know if that's because of my editor-in-chief, Joe Alvin, sort of being such a big character and so fun to work with, or whatever the sort of alchemy was about that particular time and place. And, magazines sadly don't really exist in the same way anymore. But back then we were the biggest news. We were, sailing high. We had the top sales above anybody else. And it really felt entrepreneurial to be part of it. And on the cusp of building this thing, and social media started and the internet kind of came about and people having websites as well as the magazine and, the events that you could throw and the access that you got and the lifestyle. And it was so interesting. It was really glamorous and fun. I mean, it was terrible pay, but you would sort of big part of my job was bringing people and brands in the industry into the orbit of Glamour. And so a big part of it was basically going out and making friends with people, which I loved. That was my Lorraine Kelly thing. So I loved sort of getting to know people and finding out what made them tick, what they wanted out of the magazine, what we could do for them, and making things happen. I just loved it. It was such a sort of special, wonderful time, and I felt really valued there. And so you're right, when the girls see it now, they're like, oh, were you on that shoot? Or did you ever meet this person? Or, what was it like there? And they've got memories as well of coming into the office as quite little girls. And I took them to a couple of shows at London Fashion Week and things. And I think they mainly remember getting the hot chocolate beforehand. But, it's...
Tell me, when you look at it, and obviously there's hundreds of covers there. It feels like hundreds of covers.
Yeah, I think there probably are.
Them stick out that you look at and think, I remember that month, or I remember that shoot on the front cover.
Maybe not so much that, more sort of like periods of time. So I feel like there was sort of, especially in the early days there was such a sort of buzz about us as a magazine. So that sort of Jennifer Aniston, Britney Spears kind of era. But then it was, the start of J-Lo or Adele's career. I'm just trying to look behind me who was here on the cover. Sarah Jessica Parker or Katy Perry and J-Lo. It was Catherine Zeta-Jones I can see down there. She's, a good Welsh girl. So yeah, it was kind of like glamorous and high octane. And we would have these Glamour Woman of the Year awards in the summer. And so some of the people who'd been on the covers would be at the awards and you'd think, Kate Hudson just there or whoever. It was fun.
And how did you find going to the fashion shows themselves? Because obviously you were there to work and to make notes and, you know, shape the content, etc. Did you enjoy all of that? Or was it, I mean, you had 2 small children. Was it really hectic and tiring? Or did you just find the energy just to keep going?
It's a bit of all of it. I mean, there's a part of you that's thinking, A, you're not like, you know, self and world hunger. So it is a complete privilege to be in this frothy world. But it's also not frothy. I mean, we all wear clothes, and some designers genuinely, I think, are artists. So it sort of depends on the show that you were at. Some of them you just felt, oh my goodness, what a privilege to witness this, and it's so incredibly beautiful or dynamic or special or whatever it might have been. I mean, some shows, yeah, oh my God, you know, you're just sort of sitting through some sort of commercial just to get through it. But I wouldn't be disparaging about it, really, having just been disparaging, but because it's still all part of an industry, and you need things to be commercial in order to be successful. So, yeah, if you were away for about a month in February and about a month in September travelling, you'd have sort of stop-offs to come and wash your clothes and, you know, a couple of nights in between. But it was really tough when the kids were little. My mum would always come and stay whilst I was away for that long period of time. And Ben was also working ludicrous hours at that point as well. So it was, you know, the home life and then this weird world that Alice in Wonderland world that you would enter. And so overall, my memories are what a privilege it was, and like what good food there is in Milan. And you know.
I think it's absolutely brilliant because you'll be able to look at every corner of that collage and think, oh, I can go back into my memory and just sort of recall what that chapter of my working life was like.
And he's and also it makes me think of Ben as well in particular, you know, not just like career, because, you know, I think I sort of spoke at the beginning about entering into relationships, having boundaries. I don't know that I was so good at that before in my romantic life before meeting Ben. And I think that he is just the most sort of kind. I mean, he's quite alpha, but he's also and funny and all those things. But he's fun at his core. He's kind and thoughtful and incredibly respectful and proud of me. And so that's what it makes me think as well, is that like how proud he is of me, of working and what I do, and you know, and I'm just so touched that he would go so far out of his comfort zone. I mean, he genuinely can't even draw a stick, man. You know, so to do anything creative, God love him, that you know, it wasn't just like dialing it in. He'd really worked at that.
And it shows, and I absolutely love it. I have loved listening to this. I have to say to your mum, Claire, to Newport, Pembrokeshire, and to that absolutely beautiful possession, the Glamour collage of your 12 years at Glamour magazine. This has been brilliant. I hope you've really enjoyed it. We've loved having you.
I have.
Oh, good.
I'm navel-gazing and wonderful to talk about myself.
Thanks so much, Claude.
Thanks, Deb.
Take care. And there we have it. A huge thank you to our guest this week, and also to you, our listener. I am so very grateful for the time that you take to tune in and listen each week. So, if you have enjoyed this podcast and would like to hear more episodes, then please press subscribe or follow now. Until next week, take care. Goodbye.